So obviously this camera does not have an autofocus, but this is a real four-leaf clover. Um, Last year in March, in March 2020, when a lot of things started going, kind of wrong in the world, I actually started finding a ton of four-leaf and five-leaf clovers um, all around my neighborhood. There, we have a park around the neighborhood. I find them there a lot. I find them in like people's yards and such like that. I actually yesterday, not in my neighborhood, but around our zoo, I actually found several, including I found like six, like four regular four-leaf clovers and two five-leaf clovers. And then this morning, when I'm out walking the dog, I found three more four-leaf clovers. I started finding them again recently since it's spring and everything, and the clovers are blooming. So I've actually been finding quite a few more. I tend to keep them, and then I kind of I press them and then kind of preserve them, and then I kind of tape them up. So tape them up on paper so that way they're kind of preserved. I've actually got quite a few of them up at this point. I've actually have a few over here that are actually in my preserved section. All of these are four-leaf clovers. I actually have a five-leaf clover that I keep in my wallet. I gave like a five-leaf clover to my mom. I think I gave one to my dad, one to my sister. My nieces and nephew and my brother-in-law each got like a regular four-leaf clover, and then I have like several co-workers at work that I gave four-leaf clovers for, luck at work, because sometimes luck is extremely useful in our job. And so this video is actually going to be me talking about a little bit about like clovers in kind of, mythology or religion to a degree, since they are extremely associated with Christianity. And then I'm also going to be talking about black clover a little bit. I am a black clover fan. I found it a couple of years, or about a year, half and ago or so. And I got caught up on it on Funimation. And I enjoyed it a little bit. I was a little bit like, okay, well, let's see what this is. The animation looks good and everything, so I'm just like, let's see what we got here. And I very much enjoy it. It's Funimation, so I like most of the voice actors anyway, and it's so I've got that familiarity there. And of course, one of my hobbies is like, okay, wait, I know that voice. Where have I heard it from? Okay, and that's basically what I do whenever I watch a new anime. It's like, okay, I know that voice, and I know this voice, and I know that voice. Let's figure out who they go to in other anime. I also just like the concept for Black Clover, where it's Asta, who has like no magical ability whatsoever, and yet he's still going as far as he can. Wanting to prove himself the best. I would do a comparison between him and Izuku from My Hero Academia, which I'm pretty sure I am not the only one that has ever done that comparison. Never. No. Who would ever make that comparison between the quirkless kid in a world full of people with powers and the guy with no magic in the world full of where everybody has magic? Yeah, no one's ever made that comparison before. Of course, for like Black Clover in general, they've made the comparisons to like Fairy Tale with the guild system, and they have some of the same actors, and like some other things like that they have there. But first, in the video, I am going to talk a little bit about clovers in general. So their common name is, of course, just clovers, or triforal. It just means, three-leafed. And of course, well, there's like about 300 different species of clovers and flowering plants within that group, and they are part of the legume, or the pea family, as in like, pea is like the vegetable pea. So they're that type of, they're in that kind of genus. They mostly originated in Europe. And, of course, then they were, the, invasive species all over the world type of degree, with various other clovers being bred and such like that. Four-leaf is three-leaf clovers are the typical variety, but you can breed four-leaf clovers, five-leaf clovers, There's also been like 6 and 7 leaf clovers over the years. According to one of the things that I saw on when I'm looking this up. I think I don't remember if I saw this on Wikipedia or if it was on something else, but it was like the record as of like May 2009 was like had like 56 leaflets, so 300 56 leaves on one clover, um, you know, which beat out the 21 leaf clover a while ago. And then of course in Futurama we of course have the 7 leaf clover that Fry has, which that episode does make me cry when you get to the end of the episode and you find out about his nephew, which people cry at that one. I also cry at the dog episode and the final episode. Well, kind of a little bit at the final episode. Yeah. So, 4-leaf clovers, well, 3-leaf clovers, shamrocks, of course, are traditionally Irish symbol. They've been used in, family crests and royal crests and just different things like that in Ireland for, hundreds of years. They're, of course, part of the legend of St. Patrick in regards to the Holy Trinity. He made that common association there with the clover. There's 3 leaves and the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And then of course, there's the 4-leaf clovers, which are considered, much more lucky. And then of course, there's the 5-leaf clovers that are even more lucky. Black clover took that in a different direction, but first we're just going to kind of go over like regular clovers in our world. And then of course we, have several other, variations of, the clover, like the 3 leaves represent, love and life and what was the other ones? Yes, love and life and faith. No, it's hope, faith, and love. And then of course the 4th one is luck, and then of course 5-1 is just even more luck. And then 6 has been attributed to fame, and then 7 is longevity. 7-leaf clover and Fry, I mean, by a technicality, he is, over 1,000 years old, chronologically. Mentally, he's still about 7, but, so we have those, and of course, in different areas, they kind of have slightly different symbolisms and such like that, but for the most part, it's, the Holy Trinity, and then, of course, it goes into, the life and hope and faith and love and luck and and then fame and longevity when you go down to even more clovers. I guess you'd have a fun time trying to figure out how many clover, what each leaf means on the 56 leaf clover. The relative rarity as clovers is that 1 in every 5,000 is the possible recessive gene in regards to the 4-leaf clover variety. I guess that means I've had to look through about 3,000 or 15,000 clovers to find these ones. Not really. I just like see them. My dad made the comment of, "You just must have a really good eye for that stuff," and I'm like, "I guess." And my boss is like, that when I because I keep telling him, "Well, I found more clovers," and he's like, "That must just be your superpower is finding clovers that are 4-leafed and 5-leafed," and I'm like, "Well, no offense, that is, I mean, like, as useful as that is in regards to finding them, that's kind of a very stupid, or a very useless power. I mean, like, in the My Hero Academia world of, like, what's your quirk? I have the ability to find 4-leaf clovers extremely easily." How is that a quirk? I don't know, but there's one 3 blocks over. That would not be a very good hero power. What's your power? I can find clovers. How is it helping us in a robbery situation? Well, I shoved this clover into the bag and now we can track it because I can find it. Okay, that is actually useful. Problem is that they might take the clover out of the bag. Or I mean, like, I guess you can just be like, well, I mean, I guess like if you're like Kamui Wood or Kamui Woods, you can always like try to grow clovers and you can like give them to children. That would be fine. Give the pretty little clover to a child. Here, have some luck. You know, and that's where that kind of concept comes from. Is, you know, let's, you know, the four-leaf clover is considered lucky, and then 5 is even more lucky. And then we get into black clover, where, you know, uh, 5-leaf clovers are contributed to the devil. Um, one more slight thing about 5-leaf clovers. They're sometimes called a rose clover, and they're very prized. Um, I guess it's also slightly ironic that as far as we're aware, we have Irish blood in us, along with Scottish, but we're pretty sure we're mostly German, you know, on both sides. And then, you know, and then, yeah, now we'll move into you know, black clover itself. So of course, in black clover, you know, it's the same thing. The 3 leaves are, you know, contributed to, you know, good faith, hope, and love. And then in the 4-leaf, in the 4th leaf lies luck, and then in the you know, the 5th leaf lies the devil. Yeah. Of course, in Black Clover, we are of course aware of Yuno, who of course has his, you know, grimoire that has the 4-leaf clover on the front of it. In Black Clover, of course, when they turn, I believe it's when they turn 15. Or so, or like on like the certain presentation day when they turn 15 in the Clover Kingdom, they go to the, you know, the different grimoire houses around the country and the different areas, and then they, you know, they go in there, and then like they are presented with their, you know, grimoire. Their grimoire finds them. It flies off the shelf and finds them. Most of the people's grimoires, as we saw, have 3-leaf clovers on them. 99% of the people all throughout the kingdom have like only 3-leaf clovers, and then they vary in thickness, um, in how, you know, how thick the grimoire is, kind of based on like either their magic potential, and of course, as we've seen, as they grow in magic potential, as they, you know, break through different barriers, or as, you know, Captain Yami puts it, goes past your, you know, you go past your limit more and more, you gain more and more spells. Sometimes they're small spells, sometimes they're much stronger spells. It just depends on, you know, what type of magic you're able to do. Some, of course, have access to slightly more power than others, as you know, as we are aware when it comes to Black Clover, the royals and the nobility have a large amount of mana. You know, just being born into that realm allows you to have even more mana. And then, of course, if you're people that are born in either, you know, the lower realm or the Forsaken realm, as they call it, and, you know, those areas, you know, if you're, you know, low born, peasant born, you usually have less mana. Which is why most of the royal knights tend to be from, you know, noble or royal families, or like the high positions tend to be held by noble or royal families. And then, of course, we have the king, who does nothing except make a giant light version of himself and then walks off and pretends that he's awesome. Um, and, you know, it's like he doesn't even have a 3-leaf clover. He has a 3-leaf clover. He doesn't even have a 4-leaf clover. So even the king doesn't have the extra luck. But of course, you know, we see Yuno get his, and he of course has the 4-leaf clover, which is kind of where that comes into play, where we get that kind of explained to us. And then of course we meet Asta, who of course does not get a grimoire when he first, you know, when the ceremony happens. He doesn't get his until like a little bit later that day, when him and, you know, are attacked, and Asta's grimoire awakens, and it has 5 leaves on it. The differences that we know about the different grimoires in the different kingdoms is that the different kingdoms' grimoires have a different symbol on the front. You know, the Clover Kingdom, of course, has the 3-leaf, 3 or 4 or 5-leaf in Asta's case, clover. You know, Yami isn't even from the Clover Kingdom, and his has, you know, a 3-leaf clover on the front of it, and he has dark magic, even though he's from, you know, like you know, he's a foreigner, as, you know, as a Nozel Silva, whatever you want to call him, likes to call him. And then, of course, we have, you know, in the Diamond Kingdom, they have, of course, diamonds on theirs. We see this with Mars. I don't think Fauna had one on hers, because hers was kind of this mismatch grimoire that they had like sewn and pieced together, I think. And then, of course, in the Heart Kingdom, what we see with Laura Pitchka, that name is hard to say, and her kind of right-hand man, they have hearts on theirs. We don't ever learn, like in the Diamond Kingdom or in the Heart Kingdom, if there's like a level of magic based on like oh, well, we have hearts, but it's not like you have like multiple hearts on the cover of your grimoire, you just have one. Or multiple diamonds on the cover of your grimoire, you just have one. And we did learn about like the arcane to the different magical levels that are in, that they kind of use in the Heart Kingdom, which is of course what they're dealing with at the moment in the actual story, where we just watched Magna in the manga try to figure out a way of like how can I get around that, and then of course he's now battling Dante. And doing damage to him. And then, of course, we have the Spade Kingdom. Speaking of Dante, we have the Spade Kingdom, and they have the spade symbol, of course, on the front of their grimoires. Because it's like the Clover Kingdom is the club symbol, heart, diamond, and spade in regards to card games. Not Yu-Gi-Oh card games or Pokemon card games, but just card games in general in regards to like a regular deck of cards. You have the hearts, the clubs, the diamonds, and the spades, of course. But of course, as we have gone through the series, we have seen a few other variations of 4-leaf and 5-leaf clover grimoires. Of course, for the 4-leaf clovers, we of course have he's the first one that we see in the series. We learn that Lemuel Silvermillion Clover, who is of course the first Wizard King, he had a 4-leaf clover, and then of course we had Licht, who was his brother-in-law, who unfortunately had a very, very horrible ending happen to him. But now we kind of know that he's at peace now. Him and he's reunited with Tetia, and he gets the chance to kind of live again. Get that case. He had a 4-leaf clover that then, of course, when the freaking devil made everybody die because he made the humans attack them. Zogred, he, Lich, when almost, Lich fell into despair. When you're, it's a grimoire of despair that turns into a 5-leaf clover. And, Siegfried, not Siegfried, that's wrong. Zogred had wanted to use that, of course, use Lich, grimoire to make into his own grimoire. And of course, between Lich and Lamiel, they were able to prevent that from happening. And then, of course, they were able to, Seker Nero was able to seal Zagreb away for, I think was it 400 years? That he's sealed away. And then, of course, he's the problem during the whole, elf arc. And then, of course, we have Patri, who is, of course, a reincarnated elf who pretended to be Licht for a while in regards to being in charge of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. He took on that persona. He also tended to look quite a bit like Licht. He also shared the body with William Vengeance, as we learned. And, we get those stuff. And, of course, Zagred used him as actually he forced Patri to actually, make the Grimoire of Despair. He, tricked him, and that is how Zagred got his actual 4-leaf, his 5-leaf Grimoire. And then, of course, we know that Asta has a 5-leaf Grimoire as well. He does not have any magic. He uses these different types of anti-magic swords, of course. And he's, of course, got his Libra, who is his kind of foster brother, or Libre foster brother slash, demon best friend, devil best friend type of thing. So that's fun. So, of course, and they have, been teaming up recently, which is a good thing. Asta still has to get better at being able to maintain his, demon hybrid, where the two of them are fully fused form. And then, of course, we've seen the other devils in regards to, the devil triad, the dark triad that's in the Spade Kingdom, that are currently trying to release all of these different devils from, from the devil realm, the demon realm, because they're insane. And then, of course, we don't know exactly, if, again, we don't know in the Spade Kingdom, what their power level system is. Oh, you have so many spades on your book, therefore you're stronger, or whatever the case may be. So we see various, 5-leaf clovers, and I haven't seen this part in the anime yet, but I know that they are going to get to it, hopefully in the anime soon, in regards to the English dub. They show Asta's mother, Richita, something like that, who is, of course, also Libre's adopted mother. And, she had to give up Asta when he was a baby, once he was born, because her power sucks in mana from other living things. And, it would have killed Asta, even though he doesn't have any mana. So, I guess there's kind of, I don't know if that's a theory that's been brought up yet or not, that like the reason Asta doesn't have any mana is because when his mother was pregnant with him, her body just automatically absorbed all of the mana that was inside of him, or that would have been inside of him. And then once he was born, he didn't have any mana in him anyway, so he didn't have any mana to be able to use to even build upon. So that might have been the case there. I could be wrong, but I don't know if they've actually gone over that specifically in the manga, or if anyone's brought that up. But of course she gave up Asta, but we do see her grimoire at one point in the anime, and it did look like it had a 5-leaf clover on it. Now, she obviously was not possessed by a devil. She obviously she took care of Libre. I was going to call him Libra, but I'm like, no, that's different. She took care of him, and she raised him for several years. And then, of course, the devil, one of the devils in the underworld, tried to use her as a way of getting into the real world. I'm getting a hold of Libre and getting into the real world. And she, then sealed Libre inside of her grimoire, which then was taken by Asta. Unlike regular grimoires, unlike ordinary grimoires, it just kind of disintegrate when their owner dies. I try to remember if we've explicitly seen that. I think maybe we have seen it where like their like grimoire, like if the owner of the grimoire disintegrates, and of course they're, if they die, then their grimoire disintegrates because there's nothing holding the grimoire to that world anymore. The 5-leaf grimoire does not disintegrate. It just becomes dormant until a new compatible user, like what happened with Asta, comes of age. And then, of course, then we've seen that happen, of course, over the course of the series. Asta has gained more and more anti-magic power, and of course having Libre there helping him is now making both of them even stronger. And then, of course, in regards to slight trivia, the grimoire concepts in the real world, or the concept of like textbooks of magic, which is why I have a wizardology book over here. I have Jirachi because Jirachi is kind of luck and wishes and stuff like that. Celebi and Shaman are just here because they're green. And then I also have a Fleur's wand from Harry Potter. Well, it's green, but it's also pretty, and of course, magic and wizards and sorcerers and stuff like that. And then, of course, the 3 clovers, the Clover Kingdom, the people have the 3 clovers on their grimoire, of course, faith, love, and hope. And then, of course, it goes into good luck, and then devil, which is, of course, still kind of the representation of like, how the virtues of Christianity, the ideology there of that. Is kind of a symbol for St. Patrick's and his, illustrating of the Holy Trinity and such. And Julius Novachrono, who is, of course, the current Wizard King, he is the only one that we are aware of so far whose grimoire has no cover. We see it at one point during the battle with the Eye of the Midnight Sun, when they're trying to, one of the points when they're trying to attack the city. Julius, I think, he ends up having to use so much power at one point, but we see his grimoire over the city, and it's this huge freaking thing with just like an endless number of pages in a loop. And, there's no end, there's no beginning. And it's just this huge amount of, this huge tome of like all these spells that he has. And we see him use that. And of course, in regards to using that, that also causes him to kind of die, but he, saved up time, and now he's like 13 years old or whatever. And, his grimoire went back to being just 1 page, and now he has to start from the beginning again. He still has all of that knowledge of how he used his magic in the first place. Now he just has to get his magic, I'm assuming, to the levels where it was before, get older again. I think in the manga, I think we've seen that he has kind of aged back up at some point a little bit, because I think he ends up protecting the Clover Kingdom from one of the attacks from the Spade Kingdom at one point during this battle that's going on. And of course, right now we have it where they're trying to rescue, Yami and William from, as being used as like the center point for this spell. And of course, we'll see where that goes. We haven't seen, I mean, like throughout the course of the anime and throughout the course of the manga, of course, we've seen tons of different grimoires, most of which are fairly uniquely designed for the ones where we get, close-ups on and such like that. I just, it's like, I like Noelle's grimoire. I like how they show how, obviously I like Noelle. I have a shirt with her. We have, Noelle, who's, she had, so many problems at the beginning of the series where she could not control her mana. And then, she gets the wand to help her focus that allows her to perform her magic better. And of course, we watch her gain her, the Sea Dragon's Cradle and the Sea Dragon's Roar, and now she has her Valkyrie armor. And then, of course, she's gained more and more power over the course of the series. And of course, we've seen Asta do the same thing. We've seen all of the characters do the same thing. Add new skills to their repertoire and just get it to the point where they can actually cause more damage to the enemy. We see all the characters, as Yami puts it, push past their limits again and again and again, to get it to the point where I am now going to be able to, fight this enemy head on. Like, Magna didn't necessarily, Magna has, I think, gotten a bit stronger over the course of the series. He has. But then he also has learned a new skill in regards to writing out, the spell circles and the stuff like that he's been working on with Zara over the past 6 months or so. And now we've seen the result of that. He's using his that chain soul match, death match thing that he's using against Dante, which may not necessarily add any more spells or any more pages to his grimoire itself, but it does add a new skill set for stuff that he can do with his power. And of course, Zara helped him learn how to do that, and Magna seemed to have come up with the idea for this chain link death match on his own. And Zara helped him work on how to figure that out, and then of course now he's using that against him, against Dante at the moment, to try to help help save Yami and such like that. And over the course of the series, we've also seen that when one of them is possessed by an elf, because we saw this with Charlotte, we saw this with William and Patry, we saw this with Luck, and a bunch of the other ones that were possessed by the elves at one point during the the elf arc, that when you are possessed, when the elf takes over, they get their actual grimoire back. We saw because Patry and William have two separate grimoires. We've seen William's grimoire. It does not have a 4-leaf clover on it. It just has a 3-leaf clover. And then Patry's does have a 4-leaf clover on it. And then it turns into the 5-leaf clover that of course Zagrid uses. And then of course we saw this with like the elf that possessed Charlotte, that Charlotte's roses were blue, the elf's roses were red, because she did not have that curse that Charlotte has, and she has a different grimoire. Several of the other characters that we saw that were all possessed by Luck's grimoire changed into whatever his elf counterpart. Same thing with Gauche. Marie doesn't have her grimoire yet. That'll be a much later down the line thing. But we see that with the other characters when they got possessed, is that their grimoires actually change into what their grimoire was when they were alive as an elf. And then of course they got their grimoire back when the elf was no longer possessing them. Of course, being the exception to this rule, because even though he was technically possessed by an elf, the elf had been an unborn elf that was, of course, the child of, Licht and Tetia. And, that unborn child had been, reborn in, and, then that, as the prince of the Spade Kingdom, but then he ended up in, of course, the Clover Kingdom, as, of course, we found out earlier in the arc. And he still has like that ability to access the elf's power, but it's still just him because there wasn't like this other personality inside of him. So Yuno's did not change, but pretty much everybody else's ones that were possessed by elves did change. Kind of ended up into turning into me from talking about Clovers and mythology into let's ramble a little bit. Yeah. Well, it's my first Black Clover video. I actually have a Black Clover poster around here somewhere. I don't know if I'm gonna like move the Wonder Woman poster over and then put the Black Clover one up or not. I have not made that decision yet. I would debate about putting it on the closet door, but it's a folding door and that would require me to rip the poster, and I don't want to do that. Could always put it under the Pokemon poster, but we'll see. So that's what I got for that. I may do some more Black Clover videos down the line. We'll see. I have Clovers. I have even more Clovers now that are currently being pressed, so that way I can then kind of preserve them a little bit better. Once I get those done, I might give a slight count of like how many Clovers I actually have at the moment. I've sent some off to people, so I don't always have enough. I don't know the exact number, and there were some that when like they got, once they were done being pressed and dried, that they were just not sturdy enough to want to keep. There's I left like one because it like most of the leaves had been like eaten away. I could still tell that it was supposed to be a 4-leaf clover, but it had been like eaten away at, and I'm like, I don't really want that one. So that's what we got for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And, if you live in a place that has clovers, maybe you can get lucky and go and try to find some 4-leaf clovers yourself. Maybe. So have fun and good luck. Bye. Continuously gaining merit is everything. Anyone who can't do that can never stand at the top.